Don't know if it's working on Instagram. It's not letting me click anything.
I think we should probably just start because it's like 20 seconds in already.
There we go. Okay, that's working. I think it's working. I think it's uploading on Instagram.
I can check. Do you want me to check?
Yeah, maybe let's check on if it's on YouTube
It's
and
live.
Instagram. It is?
It's live. Yep. There we are.
Cool. Hey.
Okay, awesome. Hi, guys.
Hello. This is the first time we've done this in, what, like...
A very long time.
2 years, I want to say.
I actually don't know. I was just about to say we should check when our last one was because I actually have no idea.
I think it was 2022.
Probably. We didn't do it last year. So
Yeah.
it was quite a long time ago, so it feels very strange.
Is it working on YouTube as well? Or do I need to click something?
I don't know. Should I check that as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, it is.
Yay! Okay, there we go. Excellent. Okay, well, I guess we should start off with explaining what this is all about. Welcome to the first episode of Chapters of Change. I'm Bianca, and I go by Binx Thinx or Binx Thinks About on the internet. And this is my friend.
Sorry about that.
My friend.
You'll hear barking dog every now and then.
That's Lucy. But her mum is McKay, who goes by Laia on the internet, or literally Laia. And let's get into introducing ourselves for the people who don't know us just yet, maybe. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
No, you can go first.
Okay. Like I said, name is Bianca. I was born in South Africa, and I've lived in a few countries since then. Lived in the UK for a few years. I usually tell people that I learned to speak English there, which is a fun fact about myself. I couldn't speak English until I moved there. And then I came back to South Africa to finish school because my mum did not like England very much. And school in South Africa is where I met Laia. So that was in grade 10. I almost said year 10. I've been in Australia too long. But yeah, grade 10. And after school, I moved to Australia where... No, wait, I went to Dubai first. Dubai. Went there first. Sometimes I forget. Went there first for 4 years. I started my undergrad there. I did an undergraduate in business information systems, a bit of computer science and journalism as well. Then I moved to Australia, to Perth, to finish my 3rd year of my undergrad. Did that, started tutoring some English as well, did a teaching English as a foreign language qualification. And that's where I kind of fell in love with teaching, and it came onto my list of things I wanted to do. I also had to study a bit more in order to stay in Australia. So I was convinced by one of my teachers to study a Master's of Teaching. And now I am a high school teacher and I teach ICT and computer science in Perth. And I still read a lot and make content on the internet. I looked the other day and I think it was when I was 19, I made my blog and I started blogging and sharing stuff on the internet. Around about the same time as that, I started my Bookstagram account as well, which is probably my most consistent platform where I still do things. And then in 2019, started BookTube, making videos on the internet, which was very out of my comfort zone, but I had a bit of writer's block. I wasn't blogging as much as normal, and I saw some booktubers who I really admired, Laia was making some stuff on the internet as well, so I thought I'd jump on board and try that out for a few years, and had some fun with it, made some friends. Then we started the book club as well. We did a bunch of lives together where we read the Shadowhunter books in publication order, of course. We're very, very passionate about publication order. If you want to go and view some of our previous lives about that, you are more than welcome to. Yeah, and then I think in 2022, we both started working more seriously, and we kind of stopped making things online. And now we're feeling a bit more ourselves after 2 years of getting used to teaching. We're both still kind of graduate teachers, I'd say. It takes a lot out of you. But yeah, so here we are. Would you like to introduce yourself?
That was a very nice story. I enjoyed listening to that.
Thank you.
And just a side note in there, we got quite far with the Shadowhunter books.
We did.
Far.
We did.
Yeah, I think we both stopped because life just got a little bit too overwhelming, and reading things with a deadline, especially books this thick, got a bit much. But anyway, hello. I'm Laia. Okay, let's circle back. I was about to start talking about my YouTube channel. Let's go all the way back like you did. So, like Bianca said, we met in school in grade 10, and we were friends ever since then. So it's actually been, how many years has it been?
I don't know. More
12.
than 10. Yeah, I think it's 12 years.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I know we don't look that old. Anyway, so I also studied teaching. I finished my 4-year degree in teaching. Had a bunch of jobs while I was studying and after, or working with young children, not high school children, like Bianca is. Bless her, I could never. And COVID kind of put a little halt on things, which was amazing for me. I spent a few months just doing art and, living my dreams before getting a permanent full-time job. And when I did, it was very life-changing, very something to get used to, I think. I teach little ones. So I've worked at like a baby school, and then I worked as a grade 1 teacher. So we do say grade, you say year. Grade 1 teacher, and then now I'm working with 3 to 4-year-olds, so really little ones, which I'm really enjoying, and I think I belong with the littler ones, even though I never thought I would say that, but you know what they say, never say never.
True.
I thought I would enjoy a bit the older children, but I do actually enjoy the little ones. What else must I say?
You've been creating content as well. You were doing your YouTube.
True.
Yeah.
So I started my YouTube channel quite a long time ago, I think. I started way back, and then I've like switched genres very often, trying to like kind of find what I like to do, what videos I like to make. I know I like to make videos. That's something I've always known, but like the type of videos I like to make is something I've kind of dabbled in, done a bit of this, done a bit of that. Then during 2020, during the pandemic, I started teaching English online because we were all at home. I wasn't able to start a teaching job in person at the time, so I started online. And then because I was giving language lessons, I decided to start learning a language, which I had always wanted to do, never was sure which language, but I went with Spanish because I had previously had a experience where I was attending a flamenco course, and the teacher who was giving the flamenco course spoke Spanish, and she like kept saying words in Spanish, and I thought it was so amazing. And that's what really made me love Spanish. So I started documenting, well, I started taking Spanish language lessons, and then a while into doing that, I started documenting my language learning journey on YouTube, and that kind of took off. And that's where all the attention, that's why I got kind of all the attention for my channel. And I made language learning videos for quite a while, which I really enjoyed. But unfortunately, when I started full-time work, I had to pull back on the language learning and on videos. And I really tried to keep up with language learning. We need to go into this in the language learning segment, not now, so I'll cut myself off here. Moral of the story, I don't make videos anymore, but we'll get to that. So it's actually very nice to be back.
Yay. It is. It feels right in a way. And we've been talking about
Yeah.
Nico.
Life has changed so much for both of us, and I feel like we're at a point in both of our lives where we can kind of get back to things.
Yeah, definitely. I've been a bit more active on Instagram as well. Should we move on to talking about reading? Do you think? I think that was pretty good intros from both of us. So
sorry about my almost tangent.
No, that's okay. It's also hard to not talk about teaching because it's, you know, what we do.
It's our life.
Yeah, so much. Okay, but I thought it would be apt to keep reading as the first topic because that's kind of what we started off doing online. Well, I did. You started more with like funny videos and videos that you made when you were studying. Remember you did that other degree as well.
I don't even remember my old content. I honestly don't remember. I only remember making videos seriously since booktube times. That's all, because that's when I became consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had some flashbacks to some like hauls I did while I was living in Dubai. And what else? Like a random Harry Potter tag. So I think I did make a bit of other stuff as well before starting booktube officially. Anyway.
I can't remember.
But yeah, the reading was kind of more our first serious thing. And I think it's also, I feel like how we actually became friends.
Because I borrowed the Shadowhunter books from you in grade 10. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have found my love for Shadowhunters. So it is.
Yeah, I think it is. Because we weren't friends immediately. And I think I would just...
But that's just my personality. I'm never friends with anyone immediately.
That's fair enough. And also I've realized now, because I've been doing tap classes, and for the whole first term, it's only been me in the class. So I've had like solo private classes. And I know you, when we were at school, you kind of had private classes before I got there. Because I got there, like second term? Is it called terms? Or was it
terms? Yes.
Okay, term. Having a time. But yeah, I got their second term. So for the first term, you also had like private classes. So I kind of understand a bit of the... I'm going to be annoyed when people come to class next term. So, but yeah, I started off, I think I bought the first 3 books in the Shadowhunter series and I read them and I really liked them. Then I went to the shop and I saw that they had some more in the series and I was like, of course I'm going to want to read the other 3 books in the series. So I think I bought 2 or 3 of them. And then initially I didn't understand what the point was because they had wrapped up the initial trilogy. So I think I got sidetracked like halfway through the 5th book and I never finished it. But I think I was talking about it once when we were walking to dance and I asked like if you wanted to borrow them, and I think Usually I don't lend my books to people, so
Mm-hmm.
should feel very honored that I lent them to you. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, but we were both readers before then as well. Um, what was your first book that you really remember reading?
Oh wow. Well, I've been a reader my whole life. So when I did start BookTube, it didn't feel kind of forced. Even though I wasn't in the BookTube world, I've always been a reader. So that's why it fit nicely. Um, First book I remember reading, that's a hard one because I've been reading my whole life, like whole life. I remember reading Cassie Cassidy books as a child, Enid Blyton. Um, I mean, Nancy Drew at a stage when I became a little bit older. I was obsessed with Nancy Drew and Dawson's Creek. And I went to a library as a child, so I would get all these books from there. Can you hear that background noise? I'm so sorry. Someone just decided to start cutting their grass or something. um, Nice timing. Um, anyway, and I've literally just been a reader my whole life. So when you did give me the Shadowhunter books, it felt very normal for me. I was like, oh, this is just what I'm going to read next. It wasn't, you know, I don't know. I love reading. Always have. But circle to 2024, 2023, we'll talk about it.
Okay. Well, my first books that I remember reading were the Biff and Chip and Kipper, all of those Magic Key books. I think they were the ones I learned to read in England. At school, that's
Mm.
what we learned to read with. So it's odd that I can remember all the way back to there. But I remember that. And I also remember um, my mum, she taught me like the alphabet and stuff like that with the Letterland books. So I
Mm-hmm.
had a big, like, I think it was a big yellow book of all the letters. I think you use them even now when you're teaching all the Letterland
I used it
characters.
last year.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, I remember that. Like a Golden Girl. So I have vivid memories of all those characters. Like I think I've had dreams about them when I was little as well. So I feel like I know them. Um, First ones I really remember, but I think people kind of associate me with the Harry Potter books because that was the first big book I read when I was small. So that was kind of my origin, and I kind of was a fantasy reader since then. I did dabble in some contemporary as well, and thinking back on it, I read some sci-fi in high school as well, which I didn't think of myself as a sci-fi person or like a sci-fi reader, but turns out I have some books that I've been remembering lately that were very near and dear to my heart. That was science fiction, which is interesting. Um, so yeah, that's my kind of origin story. Do you
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about what we have been reading recently, or how do you feel like your reading has been going in the past 3 months, or if you want to talk about the past couple of years since we haven't really been sharing much online as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll just talk about the past few years, months. I've really been struggling with reading actually, especially last year. So if you compare to the year 2020, I think we all read a ton of books in 2020, but I read 46 books, which for some people isn't much, but for me is much. Last year I read 5 books in the whole year, which is bad. um, anyway, so I've kind of been struggling with reading recently, and this year I'm really trying to get it back. I'm on my 3rd book of the year, which isn't great, but it's April. It's April now. It's only April, so I guess there's still time. But I'm really trying to find my love for reading again and to read more. And I've started now the new Chain of Thorns book, which we are going to read together. Well, not together, but we are both reading at the same time.
Yeah.
I haven't read in the past week. so, I haven't gotten very far with that, but I'm excited for it, and when the mood struck to start reading it, I took advantage. So hopefully I'll be getting back on track with my reading this year.
That's good. And I think for myself as well, like reading was a little bit connected to my mental health as well. And I went through a bit of a patch of not reading myself, which was really weird. Mine was more kind of end of high school, starting uni, where I think it was just a lot happening with my dad was living overseas, and year 12 was just insane. We were at school like 24/7 pretty much. We were at school on Saturdays. I did at AP maths, so I was at school on like afternoons, evenings. We had all of those catch-up sessions for maths and for physics, because it turns out that the teachers didn't cover all the curriculum or something. And then on top of that, I think I had my first like 2 boyfriends in grade 11 and 12. So it was all of this extra like social stuff, so much work. I think I was also still trying to do IT as an extra subject at home, which I was crying about all the time. And I don't think I ended up writing that final exam because my dad wanted me to switch to a different programming language that I didn't do at my old school, and he expected me to do that on top of having French and dance as new subjects at school, which I couldn't cope with it all, and that was the one that I fell off with. And that was also kind of where I realized that I'm not the type of person to want to study if I don't have a class to go to. I just found it too boring doing all of that on my own, I think. So I stopped reading for, I want to say like 2 years, 2, 3 ish, maybe. I don't remember reading a book in that time. I think the last books that I remember reading were the Shadowhunt books. And then I remember picking up The Alchemist in 2016, I think. Yes, because that was when I moved to my second university. Wasn't at my first one. So, yeah, it was really difficult part of my life, and I don't think I realized how difficult it was until I think back on it. Because I was in a new country, had to meet totally new people. My mum wasn't there, my sister wasn't there, my dad was there most of the time, but sometimes he wasn't there. So I was there, kind of by myself for a lot of it. And I made really, really good friends who I spent a lot of time with. But I do think that we kind of dealt with our expat third culture kid feelings in slightly unproductive ways, where we were just out all of the time and, staying up late, drinking energy drinks and caffeine to finish assessments instead of working on it early. So I didn't read anything at the time. It was just too many other things were happening. But I am grateful for getting back to reading in 2016. It was actually, I think someone said to me, like, you say you're a reader, but read this. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember the last time I read a book, so I read the book they recommended. And then I read Eat, Pray, Love after that, and Fangirl. So I think those were the 3 books that got me back into reading. And then I do thank Goodreads as well for getting me back to reading seriously, because I think I have a bit of a thing for numbers and seeing the number increase and tracking it. So when I started doing that and setting my Goodreads goal, I was able to like plan out how many books to read a month and fit it all in and started reading a lot more. And my reading declined as well when I started working, obviously. Um, didn't have as much time as I did while I was studying, but it it is still my healthiest coping mechanism, my healthiest form of escape, because there are so many other ways that I want to escape sometimes. But reading, I know, is the best one. So, I can spend hours doom scrolling or like watching things. Um, I used to go out with friends and go to parties and things like that, clubbing, but I don't really, do any of that stuff anymore. So reading is always what I turn to when I need an escape. Um, I still remember in high school when Breaking Dawn, the fourth Twilight book, came out. I was in the middle of exams, like school, very important exams, and I chose to stay up like literally till 3 a.m. to finish that book instead of study. So, yeah, still kind of that type of person. And like
Mhm.
even 2 weeks ago, um, before reports were due at work. I mean, it was my birthday weekend, so I cut myself a little bit of slack, but I still did choose to read A Court of Silver Flames for most of that weekend instead of do some marking. So, yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
As long as your work got done in the end, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true. But I think you're more like the opposite. You do your work first before you do other things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. But I
Oh
think
well.
your reading will come back to you when you're feeling more like yourself, which you are more now.
I am more
Um,
now. Yes.
yeah, and it's hard when you have so many other things like going on and wanting your attention, and yeah, and reading,
Hmm.
it's not always a priority.
No, and especially when YouTube is so easily accessible.
Exactly.
But we'll get there. This year, my goal is still 12, so that's one a month, and I believe that's easy enough
Yeah, I
to
think you can do
complete.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about finding time for it. And on that note, we do have a few questions about reading. Did you want to
Mm-hmm.
answer those? Okay.
Sure.
I'll start with the one that was relevant. Any tips on ways to reach your reading goals when you keep procrastinating reading?
Mm. Wow, that is relevant. Um, my biggest tip is to set a time. So what I do for myself is at 8 o'clock. It's supposed to be every night, but when you're disciplined in all kinds of areas of your life, then it's easy to be disciplined in this as well. So that's something to also incorporate into your life. But I'm very disciplined when it comes to time management, I guess. So I say to myself, at 8 o'clock, I'm putting my laptop away, YouTube is going off, and I'm reading. And I tell myself, no matter what, at 8 o'clock, I'm reading. So I think to set a time when you tend to procrastinate really works. So if you want to read in the morning, even if it's 15 minutes, um, tell yourself that is going to be your dedicated reading time. You're not doing anything else during that time you're reading. I guess that's my biggest tip is to set a time.
I think that was like was that a helicopter? But yeah, I really agree with that. That's a really great tip. Um, I would also say set like small goals. Um, you know, that's fine. Maybe the next day you'll read a paragraph, and maybe the next day you'll read 10 pages. Who knows? But like the hardest thing with anything is just that first step, like laying out your yoga mat. If you do that, you're way more likely to do yoga. If you have the book on your bedside table and it's looking at you, and you just open it at that time that you said, you're probably going to read like a little bit. And the person who asked that question tends to read fan fiction instead of reading actual novels. So, how I got around that myself, because I was also someone who did that. In my time when I wasn't reading a lot of books, I read a lot of fan fiction. You kind of have to, just decide to be finished with it a little bit and want to start a new world or meet new characters. I think like fan fiction and like rewatching shows and things like that is a bit of a coping mechanism. So you you just need to figure out for yourself what is going to be an easy like jump from that. Um, Another friend of mine, she was also more of a fan fiction reader, and I recommended her a couple of books that I thought that she would enjoy. And at first, she was like, "No, no, 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 no," and then eventually she tried it and she was obsessed with that. So it's very easy for you to transfer your fanfic obsession onto books once you find things that are right for you. So my advice is to listen to Bianca's recommendations of what books are right for you and actually read them. um,
I also find when you start reading, like if you open the book and you start reading, you'll enjoy it, and then you're
yeah,
gonna want to keep going. It's when the book stays closed and it
yeah,
doesn't get open that you forget how much you enjoy reading.
yeah,
So just opening the book and reading the first sentence, that's already gonna help, because
yeah,
it happens to me all the time. When my book stays closed, I forget I enjoy reading. And then when I actually do start reading, I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. I like this. So
yeah,
mm,
yeah,
to just
exactly.
start and then you'll realize.
Because all like social media is so it's designed to keep your attention on it. It gives you so many quick dopamine hits, and it's just always attached to you. So you just need to put all that stuff away, and you read so many more books if you stay away from tech for a while. I think even I read Stephen King's book on writing earlier in the year, and his biggest tip that he had for people who want to write more is to get rid of their television. So technology really does take up so much of our time.
I won't be going that far.
Same. But yeah, making time away from it and putting it away, it's yeah. Okay, a couple more questions. Who's your favorite author of all time?
Do you want to answer?
Personally, yeah, I can't pick a favorite author of all time, I don't think. It really depends on my mood, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a type of person I am. Like I'm so eclectic. I can, tell you which authors I like from certain genres, but I don't think I can pick like one all-time favorite author. Um, I can say though that like one of the authors, like as a person who I've enjoyed the most, um, there's two. V.E. Schwab. I've only read a
Mm-hmm.
few of her books, but I just love how she shares things on social media and you kind of feel like you know her a bit more than other authors. And she just seems like such a cool person. And I really, yeah, just enjoy her general energy. And I think she's done so well for herself with all the books she's written. And I haven't read all of them yet. Um, I think her style is a bit darker. So I have to be in a bit of a certain headspace to read her books. But I have read probably like want to say at least four of them, maybe more. But I did really love The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, do want to read all her other books. She started a podcast recently where she talks about her Darker Shades of Magic books. So I want to read those and then go and listen to the podcast as well. And then recently I've spent a lot of time with Paul E. Hardesty, which is kind of the only author I know in real life. But it's been really cool spending time with him, and I got to interview him for his uh, sixth book, The Forcing. So we did that a few weeks ago, and that was really cool. And getting to spend time with him and ask questions was so much fun. And yeah, I think they're my two favorite author people, but picking a writer is so hard because they're all so different.
That's true. That's
What
pretty
about
cool.
you?
Oh, my answer's easy. Ashley Herring Blake. I love Ashley Herring Blake's books. So.
I've read her three middle grades now. Like I finished Hazel Bly, and I think that one might be my favorite out of the three middle grades. Yeah, so that was really good. I haven't read any of her other books though.
I have, and they're pretty good.
Okay.
The way she approaches difficult topics, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I love how she did it with the middle grades as well. They're really, really good. Okay, what else? We had how long have you been reading? But we both said that's been like our whole lives pretty much. So I'm 28. Leia's turning 28, so
4 months.
plus minus 28 years. With some gaps in between, So and do we read too much for entertainment rather than for learning?
No. Personally, I'm not at all interested in reading for learning. No, thank you. I only want to read for entertainment. So that's a no from me.
Yeah, that's fair. I think like reading should be an escape. And it's not fair to say that you only get entertainment from reading fiction because you do learn things when you read fiction as well. So I think if the question is should we read more non-fiction, maybe just depends what we're interested in. Some people learn like facts and things better from other media. Like I listen to podcasts and I like watching documentaries as well. So just because I don't read a lot of nonfiction, it doesn't mean that I'm not learning. And it is really, really important to have that like self-care aspect, I think, and reading is like a really big way to do that and to just take care of your inner world, I think.
I personally don't enjoy nonfiction or like self-help books. Like, just not for me. And I've tried, I just can't get through them. So at that point, it's a waste of my time.
Yeah, I think the like self-help thing was like a really big over the past few years, and I like reading some of them for motivation, but that's the same thing I get out of watching videos of people who are like that and spending time with people who are like that. So
I recently watched a video. You know Unjaded Jade?
Yeah, I have a
She's
book
been
actually.
making quite interesting videos. Nice. her recent, I want to say 3 videos, like her very, very recent videos, have been very interesting. And I actually don't watch her, but I've watched her videos in like the last 2 weeks. And she's really changing kind of her content. And I'm really liking it. And something she said in one of her videos has really stuck with me. She said there's like so much, and I'm paraphrasing, there's like so much pressure in the world and like self-help and people trying to give advice. But if you just like be still, all the answers are inside you. And that really resonated with me. Like all the answers are already here inside me. So everything else is just noise. And that really resonated with me. And that's why nonfiction does just not for me.
Yeah. I love that everything you need is inside you. I think that's also why I also always go back to journaling, bullet journaling, and that's always like the main thing I have to do is just get everything out of my head, and then I can do stuff all of a sudden. I don't need all the other things. I don't need someone telling me, 5-minute rule, or do the like 5 whys or whatever all of those little things are, atomic habits. You don't need all of those things. You just need to sit down and get it out of your head, make a plan, and just figure out where to start and do it. But on that note, not all nonfiction is, self-help. I've also got, um,
Yep, I know that.
some interesting ones of like other topics that I want to learn more about, like native animals and mythology, which I don't know, that's kind of a gray area there, whether mythology is technically like fiction or non-fiction, depending on.
Well, I guess that's different, because if it's something you want to learn about,
Yeah.
then by all means, like, get the book, open the book, learn, you know? But to say I have to read something to learn instead of to enjoy, like, that's kind of where you have to, like, draw the line, kind of. But if it's something you want to learn about, then sure.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, but it is worthwhile, figuring out whether you do want to learn more about different topics, and there are books on the topic.
And I learn by videos, so anything I want to learn about, I watch a video about it.
Yeah. I like doing it that way as well, I think, depending on the topic. But there have been some interesting ones, like Sapiens. That was a really interesting nonfiction book. Highly recommend everybody read that one. You learn so much about just how to look at people. But yeah, I think we spent a lot of time on reading. Let's move on to teaching.
Okay. Cool.
Do you want to give a little overview of how, I guess, what your teaching journey is? Yeah, what you consider your teaching journey?
Well, my teaching journey, I guess, started as soon as I left school. I worked as an assistant teacher at a school. I also had like quite a few jobs to do with children. I was an au pair for a few years, long time actually. And when it comes to teaching, like I said, really only have worked at 3 different schools. I was at a baby house, which I loved. No, I did like it. I like the babies. I love my babies. And that job was quite easy compared to everything else. So basically, the babies would have napped. Well, they weren't actually babies. They were 2 years old. Some of them very close to 3. So they weren't babies. But they would have nap time at around 12, and I had to be at work till 2. So 12 to 2, I entirely had for like admin kind of stuff, for planning, because I still had to do planning, even though it was just like 2-year-olds. And I got everything done in that time, so I had to bring nothing home, like no work came home with me ever, which was amazing. So that job was quite easy in that aspect. Switched to being a grade 1 teacher, which was very difficult, very, very difficult. I worked at a government school, and basically government schools, I was sitting with 35 children in a class, and it was a big challenge for me. The admin was insane. I worked every weekend. I worked my holidays. Like, everyone's like, oh, you're a teacher, you get holidays. My whole holiday was spent working. So that was very hard in terms of the teaching aspect and the admin aspect, I guess. And I feel like I'm at a place now where I found a balance between the two. So like baby house was very easy, grade 1 was very difficult, and I'm at a place now where there's like a complete balance. So I still, now with the 3 to 4 year olds, I have way fewer in my class. I only have 14 children, which is like a breath of fresh air, but still difficult if you've ever met a 4-year-old. It's more difficult in some aspects, but there's a lot less pressure as well, because you can kind of have fun with them, and if you don't get everything done in your day, it's not the end of the world. And I do have admin. I do, because I work at a private school now, so there is a bit more admin than I think at some kind of like creche or something, like a preschool. But I do bring work home sometimes. Teachers have to, like, you cannot get away with not bringing work home. It's part of the deal. But it's not as much as it was last year, and I actually have weekends now. I like when there's a public holiday, I can take the public holiday. These past 2 weeks have been a bit different because we're right in report/parent meeting time at the moment, so I had to get my reports done this past 2 weeks, so that was a bit different. But generally, there's a very, very good balance, work-life balance now, that I did not have when I was a grade 1 teacher, and I'm very grateful. So that's why I feel like I have a bit more time for me. I'm becoming more myself again. I'm also happier at my new school, much, much happier. And I've had many people in my real life, bring up, comment, there we go, comment on how much happier I look. So it's visible to other people as well. So
yeah,
I'm at a good place.
Yeah, I definitely think you are happier this year. I think we've both had some difficult times teaching. It's not for...
It's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
And people think it is. They're like, oh, you just play with little children all day.
It's
no.
Yeah.
Especially with the age I'm teaching, it sounds much easier than it is. But I'm not. It's good. It's good, you know. Like, it's a good age to be at. I like the age I'm teaching right now.
Yeah,
but it's not just playing. I think that was my point. It's not just playing.
Yeah. People have all sorts of ideas of what we do and what they think we should do and all things like that, but you don't really know until you've done it. You really, really don't. Yeah, well, I guess a bit of a backstory on mine. I never thought I would be a teacher at all. That was like the farthest thing that I thought I would be doing, whereas you were more like sure, like that was your plan, I guess, that you wanted to do. Yeah, when I said I was going to study teaching, everyone was like, what? Are you sure you're going to be in a classroom?
It was very strange for me when I could not imagine you teaching. I could not imagine you in front of a group of children, especially high school children. But I mean, I bow down to anyone who's a high school teacher, like, seriously. And then other people say that about me working with the 3-year-olds. So no, but I couldn't do high school. So it was very strange for me when you said. And then what was also strange for me is I never thought we would end up in the same career.
Yeah.
So
it's weird.
We did. It was quite weird.
Yeah, but interesting. Yeah, when I went to uni, I think I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be a writer, but I've always known that that was never going to be the thing I was going to study. It was just something that was, I guess, assumed or said to me when I was quite small, that that's not what you do. It's not something that can take care of you. You won't earn a living doing that. So that's not a job. That's something you can do on the side. So even though I wanted maybe at a stage to study literature or English or whatever, that was never what I was going to do, and I always knew that. So I always had to like figure out what I was going to do instead. And for a while, it was highly suggested that I go into the IT area. But when I went to uni initially, we had to do a foundation course to transition. Depending on which country you came from, you couldn't just go directly and start a degree. Also, depending on which university you went to. So I went to a British university in Dubai, and I had to do the foundation course, which they just sort of taught you how to write essays and how to do referencing and all kind of like the basic things you need to do. And then they also gave you a little bit of a taste of all the things that that uni offered. And while I was doing that, I thought I was interested in psychology. So that was what I wanted to do for a few months. Um, and then I think we did some kind of thing where we learned about business information systems. And I mentioned that to my dad, and we had a talk about it. And then ultimately, we came to the conclusion that that would be a really good fit for me. And it still is. I still think I could be a business analyst or work with business information systems. It comes quite naturally to me, being a kind of go between clients and computer scientists, because my brain can understand both the talking to human beings and talking to computers. But I've always known I'm never going to be like a coder. That was never my passion, and I found that out as well in my degree later when I had to do C++ and nearly had a mental breakdown. So
Can I quickly stop
yeah,
you for 2 seconds? I'll be right
sure.
back. I'm just going to take a
Okay.
2-second break. You carry on talking.
Okay. So yeah, found out that I didn't really want to continue studying that when I was in probably the start of my third year. If I had stayed in Dubai, I probably would have continued in that career course based on the connections and things I built up. But because I moved to Australia in my final year, I kind of lost a lot of my connections. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I barely knew anybody in my classes. So by the time I graduated my third year, I didn't have a plan of what I would. Um, and at the same time, like I've said before, I did some English tutoring, which I was tutoring adults, and I actually really, really enjoyed that. And at the same time, I decided I wanted to do something to come back to English. Um, and along the way, that kind of all culminated in me studying teaching. um, Decided to do my master's in teaching so that I could become an English teacher. That was the plan, teach English at high school. So that's what I went into my degree with in my head. And I did enjoy learning about it, but when I had to do my actual practicums, I found that I quite enjoyed teaching ICT. Um, it was also a subject that came relatively easy to me while I was at school. So making all of the activities and things for teaching ICT during my prac was really, really fun. Um, it was a bit hell teaching at a private school, and I would not work at a private school. I don't think in Australia. I didn't enjoy that very much. Um, I think, yeah, it's not my vibe, and a lot of people figure that out while they're on prac, whether they want to work at a public school or a private school. But having said that, if I was in South Africa like you are, I would never work in a public school. I also wouldn't have gone into teaching if I was in South Africa, so I think you are very brave for doing that.
It's very different. The difference between
Yeah,
public schools and private here are very, very different.
yeah, so different. Um, so yeah, I'm very fortunate that I was able to study teaching here in Australia, and I know how fortunate I am pretty much every day just being around all the kids at school, just observing them and the things that they're used to. I always have these little moments where I'm like, if they only knew how lucky they are to have this thing. But anyway, so yeah, when I graduated from the master's degree, my plan originally was to take that and try to go into something else like publishing or editing, just have something kind of linked to English so I could go in that direction. And I did work in libraries for a few months. I think it was like 4 months or something like that, 3, 4 months. Was enjoying that, but ultimately I didn't find it very mentally challenging. It was very, you know, you just kind of go in, you talk to people, you find books for them, you sort the books, which was fun and all, but I don't it wasn't very challenging for my brain. Physically, yes, very challenging, and I was very exhausted. But then I got a job offer from the school where I did my final prac. I made a really good friend in my mentor teacher, and she immediately, put my name up when a vacancy popped up, and that's where I've been ever since for the past 2 years and 3 months. It's a public school in Perth, kind of like mid to high-ish socioeconomic area. Lots of families, and the kids there are pretty good. You can hear some horror stories at schools, but I think we are quite fortunate with some of the kids we have there. A little bit quirky, but for the most part, they're really good kids. And they're just hilarious. I really like spending time with teenagers. Um, and you realize how much you have grown when you do that. That was, I think, the first time I actually felt like I was an adult when I had to go and teach children, and you realize how small they are when you have to try to put your brain back into, what did I know when I was a grade 8? How do you have to talk to them? Um, and it's also very different here to how it is in South Africa with how their school system works. Um, so that was very weird for me as well, trying to figure all that stuff out along the way, and all of these unspoken things that everyone around me seems to know that I didn't know, and I kind of either have to be told or I have to ask. Like finding out that the year sevens, they they haven't moved between classes by themselves until they get to high school. So they all show up at high school like extremely freaked out and scared. Whereas like when at our schools we do that in grade 4, and we're so used to it and independent by the time we get to high school. It's the only thing that's kind of scary is that we were the big kids and now we're the littlest ones, and the matrics look really scary. But for them here, everything is so scary, and I don't know. I have some opinions about it, but I can go on for days about it. But yeah, I actually really love teaching ICT, and I wouldn't teach English here. I've decided that I don't think I could with how the curriculum here is structured and how little majority of children enjoy just reading and learning. I think if all of the kids I had to teach were like me or you, it would be so much fun. Or like the adults who paid us to learn English. Like it's so different teaching someone who wants to be there as opposed to 90% of the kids who are forced to be there. They have no choice. And most of what you do is deal with their behaviors rather than actually teaching them content.
We can say that again. People at
Yeah.
the back.
Yep. Oh, this other thing happened that I don't think I've even told you about, but I'm not going to mention it on here, but remind me, I have to tell you about this thing that happened with a kid.
Okay.
He's no longer in my class, so it's fun. um, but yeah, I think I'm a lot more used to teaching as well. The first year was in insane. It was like when COVID kind of came to Perth properly, they opened the borders. So all of the mask regulations were there, and I think the kids at some stage they were at home for a while and then they'd come back to school, but a lot of them had missed school, or they weren't in a really good routine, and then they had to come back this year and they all had to wear masks. Um, and then there's always going to be the handful that don't want to wear the masks, and it's really difficult building relationships with people whose faces you've never fully seen. And then all of the naughty kids are the only kids whose faces you've seen. So that was like a really big challenge. And the second year was so much easier just not having that one thing to deal with.
Can I
It
tell
was
you?
yeah.
Can I tell you a fun fact?
Yeah.
All my children in my class this year were born in 2020. I'm teaching a
Whoa.
class of corona babies.
Whoa, that's so weird.
So on all the reports and everything, when I write their birth date, it's all 2020.
That's weird. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I can't.
It's a bit different.
Because I imagine they'd be a lot more like clingy, I guess, if they
There
had to
is,
spend
there
a.
is. I think the other teachers have also mentioned a difference between this group and other groups. So I think there is a difference. There's a difference in the parents as well.
Yeah. I think also here, the schools where like COVID hit when the kids were in year 7, that has like affected them a lot as well. And they're dramatically like extremely different behaviors. And those kids, because they didn't really get, I don't know, they didn't adapt the normal way. So they kind of think they can do what they want. It's very weird. Or it could also just be because they were born in the year of the rat, or I don't know, but there's something there, because it's really weird that a whole like year group is just a certain way, Like it's something, but it's probably the COVID thing. But yeah, this year, I feel like I have a better handle on all the things. I've got better routines. I know, what things to cut out that are unnecessary. And like also the biggest thing is overcoming that like teacher burnout that happens when you have to do so many things and learn so many new things. It's insane. And you don't realize what kind of like a shell of yourself you were until you start coming back to feeling normal or like better, or.
That's completely the headspace I'm in now.
It's noticeable for sure. And like yeah, family, all of that, they notice as well. Yeah. Did we have any questions? Okay, so we answered the one, what has your teaching journey been like? And why you got into teaching. We covered those. We have one other question. If you could teach anything in the world, what would it be, real or made up?
Interesting. I could teach anything. I mean, that's a very hard one. That's a very hard question. That's a hard question.
It is. I don't know.
I don't know either, honestly.
I have some controversial answers I could give, but I think one of the nice things about teaching is how you can actually kind of do that. You can take the things that you're supposed to do and you can put your own spin on it, because you're not like, I know sometimes you have other people in the room with you, but ultimately you are the one who's in control of the classroom and what's going on. So if I have to teach networks or programming. I have so much choice with how I can teach that. It's not prescribed. I think in South Africa it is a bit more prescribed with what you have to do and how to do it. But for the most part, there's not someone like looking at you and how you teach things every day. And, like if you're teaching maths or any of that, you can teach it in whatever way you want. Um,
Mm.
so you have that freedom with how you teach the things as long as the kids end up having the skills and the knowledge at the end of the day. So I think I
Mhm.
do enjoy that part of it. Sometimes I wish things were a bit more clear in terms of the curriculum. Um,
Yeah.
but I do enjoy having that, and when my brain is working, having the ideas for how to change things in a way that the kids can
Mm.
understand better. But
Yeah.
probably
I do enjoy
spreadsheets.
having. I do enjoy having guidelines. That's very helpful. But I guess I would say I'd want to bring more Montessori into my classroom. But that's
Mm,
very hard to do when you're at a school that does not use Montessori. So, but that's just
yeah,
my personal love of Montessori. And Montessori is so misunderstood by everyone. Um, but I think that's the only thing that I could say. But on the other hand, too, I like the very clear guidelines of what to do and when to do it. So
yeah. Um, Agreed. Okay. Um, let's talk about studying.
oh,
Haha.
my least favorite topic.
uh, Kind of same though. It's an odd one, but at the end of the day, we both end up coming back to doing that because we like learning. Me.
Why? I'm doing it for possible career advancement in the future. So
Yeah. Just depends what type of studying, what type of learning. So we are both doing additional like qualifications. One of the questions which I might just mention right now is it worth studying with institutions over self-study if you just want the knowledge? So
yes.
like yeah, it depends on what type of person you are.
What do they mean? Like what I'm doing? Distance studying?
So like I can read a book about learning French versus like I'm not
Mm-hmm.
doing a course about it. Or like like my partner, he did I think an extra degree in German at uni. You don't need to do a degree in something to get the knowledge. There are lots of ways to get knowledge about things. There are lots of other
Mm-hmm.
options. Um, just depends on what you want to
Mm-hmm.
do and what you want to use it for. So, like,
Yeah.
if you want to have something where you want to be able to make money from it, um, you might possibly need a qualification to go along with it. You need the like actual certificate. I did this. Teaching is definitely something that you can't just go and read a book and say like, "Hey, I'm a teacher now," because you need to have gone through the institution and get certified, be declared like safe around children. So you can't. That's a thing that you can't self-study. You can always study more on top of it, and you can read into all of these other things like um,
But that's just
un-
self-development.
yeah, you could do career development on top of it as well. But for the most part, the teaching people, they like having the certificate. You studied this, you tick the box.
Not even
Um,
like they have to have it. If you do not have
yeah,
that, you will not have a teaching job.
yeah.
um,
Some
I
things
mean,
are mandatory, but other things you can just do additionally.
for me, my answer to that will, well, obviously it depends what you want to do with it, but exactly what you said. Um, if it's going to help you career-wise, then yes. I mean, and the thing with studying with an institution is that you do have that certificate, and then you can go on your CV or your resume, whatever you call it, And then places who hire you can see that. If they see you read a book about something, they're not going to take you seriously.
Yeah.
And I guess I can kind of bring the example of me studying Montessori into this. So last year, I studied Montessori. I did a Montessori certificate because I wanted to learn more. And obviously, I could have learned more about Montessori on the internet. But the fact that I have the certificate now, it's a big part of why, not a big part, but it plays a part in the jobs you're going to get in the future. And I was offered a job at a Montessori school. That wouldn't have happened if I didn't have the certificate. I did not end up taking the job, but my point remains, it wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, yes, it's worth it if it's going to help your career.
Yeah. So yeah, just depends what you want to do. I'm doing the Steiner training course as well, and I don't necessarily want to teach at a Steiner school. I don't know if I want to. Maybe one day in the future I will, but having the actual full certification would help either way with other career options. So it just, it makes sense for me to choose to have done that through an institution. And also, I enjoy having deadlines. Otherwise, I find it becomes overwhelming with doing stuff on my own sometimes. And I mean, like most humans become chronic procrastinators if we don't have to do something. So I can put off all of the French studying I'm trying to do because I don't have an end goal with it necessarily. Maybe if I changed and said, well, I want to study so that I can get my DELF certification, or DELF. There's a DEL and a DAL. So you can get those, and then you can use them if you want to work overseas or become a translator or something like that. So I think having things like that are beneficial, and they give you an end goal and a purpose for your own motivation, and also as proof that you are qualified in whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I learn better in classes with people when there's talking happening. I remember things like really easily. People used to get really annoyed with me at school because of that. Like if I missed a maths class, I would find it really difficult to figure out what happened and catch up. But if I was in the classes, I'd remember like 98% of it and I wouldn't forget it. So I'd do well in the test because of that, being in the class environment and remembering things. And when someone teaches me how to do something, I remember it. Same thing kind of now with like cooking. If someone tells me what's in a recipe and we make it together, I'm going to be able to remember it and recreate it. But if I just look at it, I have no idea what to do at all.
Yeah, I guess I'm the complete opposite. I don't like the classes. I like doing it by myself. When I'm in a class, my brain is not there. So it's kind of the opposite for me. And even with cooking, you've tried to show me how to cook something. It goes like in one ear, out the other. I will not remember if someone shows me. So I guess it also depends on your personality.
Yeah,
I also don't like cooking, so that's a very bad example. I don't want to remember because I really don't like it.
That's fair.
I've recently, now, don't consider my age right now. I've recently been learning how to make rice.
What kind of rice?
I don't like cooking. White rice, just white rice. I don't like cooking.
Like tastic?
I don't know, white rice.
Okay, but you get long grain, short grain. If it's like tastic rice that you buy in South Africa, it's like short grain rice. And it's like you have different ways to cook different types of rice.
Okay. You know what? I put it in the pot twice it like came out hard, but then I put it in longer and then it gets soft. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can make pasta though. I'm very good at making pasta.
Yeah,
But anyway,
rice is tricky.
my brain. Yeah, I prefer doing things by myself. That was the point of everything.
Yeah.
I didn't even say what I'm studying this year, should I?
Yeah. That was a question. What are you both studying? So I'm doing Steiner this year and then trying to learn French and a little bit of Greek. And then I do like some random Skillshare courses as well. So like random like hobby-ish things. That's mostly what I do.
Okay, well, like I said, I did the Montessori thing, and I'm not even at a Montessori school, which is fine because everything works out how it should. So I'm doing my honours degree, and I know honours degrees don't exist in other countries. So basically, it's like a degree between your bachelor's and your master's, and you have to do it before you do master's. You can't do master's before you do your honours. And it's 2 years for my qualification. So it's like I've done my 4-year bachelor and now I'm having to do 2-year honors. So at the end of the day, I'll have like 6 years of education. The reason I did it is to get a better job, but now I'm at a better job. So part of me was like, should I even? What's the point? But I think in the future it will just benefit me anyway. So I'm just going to push through and do it. I will not be doing masters. You can take my word for that one.
That's fair.
But
I want to do a PhD one day, maybe. Like that's always been a thing. When I was little, I was like, I want to have doctor in front of my name, and then I will be accomplished.
It's not a goal of mine. I'll say the same.
Yeah, that's fair. What else are you studying or learning, or you mentioned Spanish? Is that still something that you're actively doing, or?
No, so I very much stopped language learning, stopped Spanish. There was a point where I thought I'd get back to it, but I haven't yet. And I don't know at the moment if I will, but maybe one day. I think I've lost a lot of what I've learned, obviously. But if I do pick it up again, I don't think it will be as difficult as starting over. But I did stop because everything just got too much. I had to eventually do lessons every 2 weeks, and then I'd fall behind and I wouldn't have time to do my homework. Then I'd rush and do my homework the night before, and my language like regressed. Whereas during COVID, when I was just at home and I could focus, I did a little bit of language learning every day, so I progressed very quickly. But then when I had to put all my energy into working, into my job, I did regress, and then the classes weren't fun anymore because I suddenly felt myself not knowing something anymore that I used to know, which was very frustrating. So I have stopped at the moment, and it's still undecided whether I will carry on, return.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Sadly for myself, language learning is also always very low on my list of priorities. I have been teaching my boyfriend how to speak Afrikaans though, which has been pretty interesting, and he's picked it up pretty quickly because he already speaks 5 languages. So he's got a pretty good little accent happening, and we have like certain phrases and things that we'll just say in Afrikaans together, and he's read a few books, like children's books. He can read all the words. Sometimes I have to help him with pronunciation, but he's picked that up. I guess how long's it been then? Probably like 7 months ish that I've been teaching it to him. So yeah, it's just kind of like casually though. We don't really have like a set structure. I think if we did and if we spent some time, having him writing a bit more and things like that, it would go quicker as well. Um, yeah, this is less studying and more teaching, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But so I guess I've been doing more of that than learning myself. Put
Mm-hmm.
that a bit on the back burner because my French level was initially higher than his Afrikaans level, and he grew up speaking French, so he's pretty much fluent. He's lost like a bit of vocab and such because of not practicing as he got older. But he's definitely at a higher level than I am in French. But my French was higher than his Afrikaans, so we thought we'd teach him Afrikaans to try to like catch up a bit. So, and I feel like he has because Afrikaans isn't too difficult to learn because it only has three tenses.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to
And no gender things.
yeah,
And I mean, German, they say it's similar to Afrikaans, but it's very different in the way it has like the
it's so
different
different.
things if you say different words. It's like very
Yeah,
different.
so different. There's so many more things that you need to be able to do when you speak German. I tried watching like a German TV show and I was trying to pick up like pronouns and things like that and I just couldn't do it. I have no idea. I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
actually go and like research and look into it.
Because you have to
But
conjugate in German as well.
yeah,
And
so
conjugating is the most difficult.
yeah. Whereas like in Afrikaans you don't really have to. Um
Even in English.
yeah.
So
So
coming from those two languages, learning a language where you have to conjugate, that's quite tricky.
yes. Conjugate is changing verbs to match the person, people, gender, all that stuff.
Pronoun.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so he picked that up really quickly. Um, and I've mentioned that we should speak a bit more French as well because I think because I speak Afrikaans at home with my parents, it comes a bit more naturally for me to just speak Afrikaans in general. So I'll just speak Afrikaans to him. Whereas if we want to speak French, we kind of have to put ourselves in the like, we are speaking French because neither of us really do that in an everyday setting anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's interesting how your brain kind of associates languages with different things and like the places where you speak the language and even people because you and I we both speak Afrikaans as well and we speak it at home with our parents but we met speaking English at school and I don't know when we even like really learned that we were both fluent in Afrikaans but it was
I don't
later
know.
so we never speak Afrikaans to each other really.
No.
um
I think that's
it's
also partly because of me. Because I refused. I refuse to speak Afrikaans. I'm sorry.
Oh, and another thing that I realized while speaking or teaching him Afrikaans, I think I still have a bit of a lisp because I had a big one when I was small, like funny, like lisp, like that
Mm.
kind of lisp. And I think I still have a little bit of it because the way that he pronounces certain words when he speaks Afrikaans, it's like he exaggerates it. Um,
Mm.
and then I'm like, "Am I saying it that way?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's not supposed to sound that way."
But also, you have a bit of a different accent in Afrikaans as well. I don't know.
Compared to
Maybe it's because
what?
of being overseas compared to me. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
because of
maybe.
being overseas and not hearing it in everyday life. Like
I
around, I don't
guess.
know.
I don't, but I also don't know if my accent has changed since being at school or not. I
Mm.
don't. I don't know. There's no way for me to really tell. Um, but
Anyway,
yeah. Any other studying questions? Which languages do you both speak? So I speak English and Afrikaans fluently, and then my French has like plummeted. I did learn it at school. I started a little bit in like grade 5, and then again I took it as a subject in like grade 10 to 12, so for like almost 3 years. And I got to intermediate level, like probably like mid to high, and then it like from lack of practice. So
Yeah,
I'm like,
lack of practice will do that.
yeah, probably like high beginner now. So sad. And then I think the one I was focusing on the most has been like trying to start learning um, Greek, but I don't know how much progress I've made with that because I haven't practiced much this year. So, eh.
It's fine. Yeah. I suppose I obviously speak English, I also speak Afrikaans, like we mentioned. And I used to speak a little bit of Spanish. I don't know if I can say I do anymore. I do still know a little bit, obviously, because. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
No, I do. I obviously still know a few words and I can understand a bit. And the other day, at because I'm a Spanish dancer as well, and then everyone was like, "What's the Spanish word for left?" And they said it, and it was so wrong. I just left. I was like, "That's not it." So no, there's still some knowledge there.
Okay. On that note, shall we move on to quick fitness/dance? Maybe just a quick overview, and then I think we can wrap it up for today. So, what is your fitness dance history?
History.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you said it was going to be quick. No, so I've basically been a dancer my whole life. I started ballet when I was 4 years old. Did ballet my whole life. It was like my main form of dance. When I got to high school, I guess I was still doing ballet up until grade 10, and we got a new teacher in the school who also started giving contemporary. And jazz only came a bit later, I think. So then I started contemporary. And then around grade 11, I started Spanish. Flamenco, for everyone who doesn't know what that is. It's not ballroom. But I don't only do flamenco, I do classical, because Spanish has like classical, regional, different things. And I stopped contemporary shortly after school, but tried to carry on with ballet, mostly carried on with Spanish. I then became very serious with Spanish, did a lot of like kind of professional shows, and Spanish became a very, very big part of my life pre-COVID, when I was still studying, out of school but still studying. And it was basically my whole personality at that stage. And ballet has been on and off. I've stopped for a few years, went back, stopped, went back. I'm at a place right now where I'm trying to go back to ballet again. Seriously trying, but it's very hard. And even committing to once a week has been very hard. So that's still a work in progress, but I really want to go back because I kind of reignited the spark. And I would love to go again. Still doing Spanish much less than I used to. There was a stage where I would dance 4 times a week at the moment. But now I'm only down to once a week. I finished all my exams, so I went up to advanced. Finished all my exams, so now I'm only dancing once a week. My Saturday, so my whole Saturday basically is dancing. And I would say, same as with the language, it has regressed a bit. I'm not at the level I was when I was doing it kind of professionally, if you can call it that even. professionally in air quotes because I was paid for some shows, but I'm not but dancing was not my career, so it's kind of a very loose professional term. um, I'm not at the level I was when I was dancing 4 times a week, which kind of makes sense when I was doing shows every few months. Now the shows are few and far between, and just trying to find enjoyment in it at the moment. So that's where I am. Fitness wise, pre-COVID, I'd say I was extremely strong, extremely fit. Like I had muscle. COVID affected me a lot when it came to fitness, because I tried to do it from home. We all like did the fitness classes over Zoom, and but eventually my gym contract also ended, and life happened. I couldn't go to the gym. I was in the gym also like 4 times a week at that point. And I was very strong because of it. And I lost a lot of muscle. I came to a point last year, because last year was such a difficult year for me, where I lost all my muscle. And when I lose my muscle, when I stop exercising, I kind of the opposite happens. I don't gain weight, I lose weight. So I became a little stick, and I hated that. And when people commented on, oh, you've gotten so skinny, it was not a compliment at all, because I had lost my muscle. Last year, October, I decided enough is enough, and I started exercising again. So what I like is going to classes. I don't like going to the gym and doing my own thing. I did try for a while, but with no results. So I eventually ended my gym contract again and started going to classes, because my friend is a fitness instructor and I love going to her classes, and that's what made me strong before COVID. It's her classes. So I started going to her private studio for classes in October, and I have gained back some muscle, which makes me very happy, because I kind of only like my body when I have muscle. I don't really like myself when I don't. So it's been good. So I think I'm at a good place right now with that. I'm only going twice a week, but going twice a week and trying to fit ballet in as well. It's been enough. It's like trying to find the energy to even go.
Yeah.
Some days, so twice a week has been more than enough, and I've gained some muscle, and I'm happy in that context.
That's great. Is it just like a general fitness class, or like what are you
No, so
doing?
so you book the class you want to go to. She has like a whole timetable, and then you book the one you want to go to. The one we've been doing consistently is like a boot camp kind of style, where it's fitness, where it's strength training with weights. I think that one shows the most results.
Yeah.
Strength, so we're still doing that once a week, and then the other class has kind of chopped and changed, because the kind of package I buy, there's only like those 2 classes, whereas if I would have paid more, I can choose from more, but I'm not paying more at the moment. And the other class has kind of changed here and there. So on Wednesday this week, we are starting Zumba in that class. So
Okay.
I've done Zumba in the past as well, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. That sounds fun.
What about you?
Oh my goodness. Where to begin? I actually had a question about, do you remember the name of your first dance teacher? Which I don't. I think I properly started dancing that I can remember when I was in grade 5 or 6. So a bit later than people normally start dancing. For some reason they had my sister start like earlier or before or something, because she was a more like active kid running around and stuff. So she started when she was very small. We both started with modern um, and hip hop. I think that was the first styles we did. Bit of modern first, and then they added hip hop into the mix. I'm not good at hip hop at all. It's not my thing. Modern, I was pretty good at. I got to really high, like level with modern. I think I got to like grade 7 or 8, um, which I think was just like a few before you could do like teaching. So I got really far with that, and it's sad that I didn't, go the whole thing with that one. That one's probably the one I did the longest as well. Then I also started doing lyrical because my teacher, um, or I guess like the owner of the dance studio, she came in once and she was like, "Oh, you have a really good turnout. Have you done ballet or lyrical?" I was like, "No." So then they convinced my mom to sign me up to do lyrical as well, and I really like doing that. I did always want to do ballet, but I never had like the opportunity for it. Um, in that in between time, my sister started doing ballet as well, on top of all the other ones that we did. So she did ballet at a different like dance school to where we were doing all the other things. And then when I was in grade 8 and 9, um, I did a few classes with her just to help my general posture. So I did do like a few ballet classes then. And I started doing tap as well, which I loved. I don't know why it took us so long to do tap, but um, just like slowly started adding things in. And I did like 2 tap exams per year. Like we kind of pushed like really quickly through the first few. So I think I got to like, I can't remember which order it goes. Probably to like gold because you start at bronze, silver, gold, something like that. So I did like 4 tap exams or something.
I also did
Um,
tap for a few years there. Also,
oh yeah.
I've done a tap exam.
Huh. Um, I never knew that.
Yeah,
Um,
in grade 6, 7, and 8.
okay.
No, grade 6 and 7. Only grade 6 and
Okay.
7.
Um, yeah, so I loved all of that. And then when I was in, oh God, this is also talking about how I moved schools and all that. When I was in grade 11 at school, my sister wanted to move schools to the school where you were at. And I was a bit sad because 2 of my very, like, actually 3, like, all 3 of my, like, closest friends had all moved to other schools as well. And so I think, like, if my sister left as well, I was just like, no, thank you. Don't want to be there. I was already getting very sick of school. Um, and so I asked if I can move to the other school with her because we had the opportunity to do French and dance as subjects there, which we didn't at my other school. And then I asked to like go back a year to be put with my age group to take all the subjects I wanted to do. So we did that, and then we stopped doing all our other dancing. So I didn't do like any of that anymore. But I did ballet, contemporary, and then we started doing jazz as well.
Sorry, I'll move.
um so yeah, did like a whole bunch of stuff, and then did like we both together did our matric, like our grade 12 final dance exam in jazz. And I think that was probably like the fittest I have been in terms of dancing, and like the best I've danced was that specific exam. I worked the hardest for it, and I had the best teachers who taught me really good technique and how to work with my body because my joints are hypermobile, and like there's you know certain things that you can't do if your joints are hypermobile. Like instead of flexing all the way, you have to be a little bit relaxed, otherwise it doesn't look the way it should. And nobody had explained that to me before, and I couldn't figure it out in my own brain. So that was something I had to learn to work with as well for the first time. um, and even that teacher took her a little while to figure out like what to do and how to explain it to me in a way that I could understand. um, but it did work, and my lines became a lot better, and um, I was really proud of myself for what I achieved doing that. But then when I left school, I stopped dancing. um, it just wasn't practical or affordable when I was in Dubai. Um, so I didn't dance for a really long time. I did do some yoga classes though. Um, I also had injuries after that exam. My foot, like my heel, and I think, yeah, I hurt my knee as well. So that took me a long time to recover from, and then I didn't think I wanted to dance anymore. But eventually I started missing it. But did a lot of yoga. I joined some gyms, did some fitness classes, had like a couple of personal trainers. So I've done the gym thing. Also figured out that I don't like being in the gym by myself at all. Like I don't like it. I like being with a personal trainer or a friend. I don't mind being in a gym. So I'm now doing like a small group PT classes with like 5 to 8 other women and then a personal trainer, and we do a circuit that uses weights. Really love that. Also joined a Pilates studio. Well, when was that? A year and a half ago, I want to say. Really love Pilates as well, and especially reformer Pilates. Have since moved and have been doing more like private Pilates classes. And then I also started doing tap dancing last year. So after probably like a decade of not dancing, then starting dance again, it was quite challenging, but it just felt right. And I really have liked being back in a dance studio again. It kind of felt like there was a little part of my soul that I wasn't, you know, fulfilling by not dancing. And I like did think about it over the years. But it's really difficult finding adult dance classes, um, and also in the styles that I want to do and that aren't like an hour away. So eventually found a tap class last year that I enjoyed. It was really fun. We ended up doing an end of year show, and I was very proud of myself for doing it. And now this year I'm doing tap and ballet with a different studio. Um, but it's been pretty good. We've gone back to basics with tap, and I've been learning some new things, having a great time. Ballet is still a challenge, but I think we both kind of do ballet for technique and additional strength, not because we want to do anything with the ballet specifically. Um, my teacher's also trying to convince me to get point shoes, and for a moment I was like, yes, do point shoes, go. And I was like, but I thought about it, and I was just like, no, I can't do that again. Like I've kind of been there, done that, and it's not for me. Like maybe if I wanted to do something more with it, but uh, I've kind of passed my expiry date for that.
Yeah. I'll pop a
And
fun fact in here.
yeah,
The last time I danced on point, I was 19 and I retired my point shoes at age 19, and I have not gone back and I will not go back.
yeah, I, yeah, same. Like the only time I was like on a stage on point was the chess dance we did. That was the only time. Um, yeah, I have no desire to do ballet exams or anything. Like sometimes I do think about, oh yeah, maybe I can teach little kids, blah blah blah, but don't know. It's just not my thing, I don't think. I don't think little kids um are who I want to spend that much time with anyway. So yeah.
Meanwhile, I spend all my time with little kids. I don't know. I often think that in a different life I would have been a dance teacher.
Mm,
And a part of
yeah.
me was like, maybe I should have been. And I don't know.
I am interested though in the rhythmics, which they do at Steiner schools. We
Mm-hmm.
haven't learned about that much yet, but that's something that maybe could be something I could do and be decent at due to my history with dance. Oh, there was also once, I don't know if you even knew about this, but there was a holiday where I went back to South Africa, and my mum she took us to go to like some ballroom classes. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we did a few, and then the teachers, they were like, oh, do you guys want to do the teacher training courses? Because obviously you can see like if someone has
Wow.
a like rhythm, and you can do basic steps and do it.
That's not the
um
first place I would go. I'd be like, do you want to do the more difficult class, or do you want to do the or not
yeah, but
straight to teacher courses?
I think like some places they're like that though, like they just take whatever they can get, and I think that's also what happened with the original dance school I was at. Like they're not taught as well as the people who actually properly study it. Um, and there's a really big difference between being a good teacher and being a good dancer, or being good at anything and teaching it. It's like totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so yeah. But that happened. So, and I had also done some ballroom and things before that as well. I forgot to mention that. I think in grade like 5 or 6, I did like a few, like a weekend, went to ballroom, did some ballroom classes. So have done a bit of that, and I'm considering doing that again now, with my boyfriend. We've talked a bit about that. When we're both feeling a bit like we have our other stuff a bit together, we might go and do a course together. So yeah. Um, one question I did want us to answer real quick was, um, physical activity and strength are so important for mental strength and health. Have you felt this in your lives?
Definitely, I suppose the two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to what I was saying now, in a more like, I don't know, superficial way. The way my body looks affects how I feel about myself,
Mhm.
and that has a big impact on my like mental health, my happiness. Because
Mhm.
if I'm not liking myself, it's gonna have an impact.
Yeah.
And then getting stronger and fitter makes me happier, like in a very direct way. But
Mhm.
then obviously it's like the hormones, or not hormones, is it hormones that get released,
Yeah.
chemicals, whatever,
Endorphins.
that get released when you exercise. So it happens very often where I'm like exhausted, I don't want to go to my class, but I go because I pay per class, so I go and I feel so much better afterwards, and I'm always happy that I went. And it's kind of good for me to have those paid classes, because it's so easy to not go. But because I paid for the class, I go, and then I'm so happy I do. So it also keeps me accountable.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think when your body is healthy, you are a lot more capable in all other areas as well. Like if your body, like if you're not sleeping enough, eating well, like it's very noticeable. Like immediately the next day, you're automatically at like less capacity. So, also because of our jobs, being a teacher and needing to give so much
Mm-hmm.
to what you do every day, you really have to make sure that you are taking care of your body. Otherwise, you won't have the capacity, or you'll end up like some of the teachers I do know who are not giving their like full best because now they're overweight, struggling with injuries, retiring early because they didn't make that time to take care of themselves, so they get burnt out a lot quicker. um and like it's tangible and the kids feel it as well.
It's easy to do with teaching, though, because teaching is such a physically demanding job, and people don't realize that. But you are
Yeah.
on your feet all day. Um,
Yeah.
Luckily for me, a little bit less now, because I can sit down with him at like a little table and work with him.
Yeah.
And we have the typical like circle time. I'm also sitting, so it's not as bad. It's better this year, but it's so physically demanding that when the afternoon comes, where you do have time for a workout class, you're so exhausted.
Yeah.
You like you don't have the energy to go. So it's kind of a vicious cycle.
Yeah,
But
it really is.
like I said, when you do go, you are always happy that you did.
Yeah, and it has so many benefits. Oh, what do I want to say now? uh Oh yeah, I just wanted to say that initially when I started teaching, I was on my feet also a lot more than I probably needed to be, and that was really bad for me and then for the kids as well because they got super clingy and just like wanted me the whole time. They're like, Miss, Miss, Miss. But now I've set like better boundaries and I know what they can do on their own and they don't need me to be out there walking around the whole time. So I will automatically now have more time for my admin work and marking and I can do a bit of things while they're busy. And then I make time to like walk around and check in on them. And so that gives them a bit more accountability with doing their work and they know I'm not monitoring the whole time, so they have to make that choice to do the right thing. And I feel like I have more, brain capacity just by not being so physically exhausted the whole time too. Also,
Mm.
I'm in one class this year, whereas the past 2 years for a few of my classes I had to go across the school for teaching game design, but um, we've since stopped using certain softwares, so we're all in the same room. So that's amazing. So
Oops.
yeah, helps so much. It was so stressful going to that other room the whole time and also being away from all my colleagues in my department. So if the kids like really acted up and some kids they do like, have big behaviors and then I don't have help and that's kind of scary. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so it is like definitely important prioritizing your fitness and the type of thing that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. You
For
have to
sure.
do something that makes you happy, otherwise it's going to have the opposite effect and you're going to
Yeah.
dread going.
Um, how do you stay motivated to work out and become fit?
So it's interesting because the other day, I can't remember what I was watching. This comes back to watching and learning. You don't always have to read to learn. That motivation is not going to come. It's not just going to come. Motivation comes when you go to something, even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
And you keep going to something, even when you don't want to. And then the motivation will come. The motivation is not going to come before you start something new. Motivation comes and stays and ebbs and flows
Yeah.
as you're doing something, but it's kind of a mindset to keep yourself going even when you don't want to.
Yeah. That's really good. Yeah.
But I mean, in a more superficial way, gaining strength, looking in the mirror, being happy, that keeps me
Yeah.
motivated. It does,
Yeah.
though. Seeing results.
Yeah. I was a bit overweight for a little while. I think when I started teaching, getting into the new routine of like, having to pack like 2 meals. And then I also realized I do need a snack after work, especially if I'm going to stay a bit and work more. And then, I had to figure out what to pack and what would work. So I have a really good routine now. But before I had that routine, I think I was eating a lot more unhealthily and people at work bring in cakes and all of these things. And then it's easy when you've had like a bad day or an hour to like go in there and then eat a bar of chocolate. Um, and then you don't realize how quickly those little bars of chocolate add up, especially if you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give the kids a Kit Kat, and then every time I give a kid a Kit Kat, I eat a Kit Kat type thing. um, they all add up, and I was probably like, yeah, how many? I want to say like 8 to 10 kilos heavier than I had been for the past like 10 years. So I picked up a decent amount of weight in that time. And like you don't initially like notice that when you're in your body unless you spend like a good amount of time looking at yourself or like paying attention to how your clothes fit and everything like that. Um, but you do physically like feel different. Um, and I had to like actively make the decision of like, okay, I can't keep going like this. I need to do something. Need to join the gym. Got the personal trainer, and everything is easier once you actually just start the thing. Like you said, you have to make the decision. I'm gonna go, gonna start, and then you just keep going. As soon as you like miss one and you're like, okay, I'm just done now, that's not going to solve it. You always have to get back on the horse. You have to just go back and not make one missed thing be the end. Otherwise, it's very easy to just stop. And that's happened to me like so many times because I always get into that perfectionism brain of I missed one, so I failed. But that's not what it's about. It's about, you can have bad weeks or bad days or bad hours or just a bad minute, and then you go back and you try again. And I think also, being like female in a female body where you menstruate and you go through that cycle, when we're small, all you really learn about is the like bleeding aspect out of it and maybe, PMS, but you don't also realize that you have to, acknowledge how that affects other areas of your life as well. And fitness is a big thing with that as well, because you will notice that you are stronger certain weeks and you have more capacity certain weeks than others. And that can be, difficult to come to terms with if you don't look at it from that way, because you can say like, oh, I'm not making any progress because I'm doing so much worse this week than I was 2 weeks ago. But if you're on your period, that's natural.
I've definitely missed classes.
Yeah,
Because
same.
of that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good at not letting one miss thing
that's good.
interrupt my flow. But I've always, I think you always,
Yeah.
if I miss something once, I'm not devastated. But also going back to the like snack thing, I'm a very big proponent of one little sweet thing a day. Like
Yeah.
I come home from work, I eat lunch, and then I have to have something sweet. But then I don't have anything for the rest of the day, and I didn't in the morning. So, and it just really helps me, especially because I don't drink coffee. And a lot of people depend on coffee to get them through the day. I depend on my little snack.
That's good.
As I sit here with my chocolate eggs next to me, waiting to be eaten.
I've been trying to replace mine with fruit, which has been most of the time successful if I've been prepared, and if I have enough fruit at home and like packed at work, I'm less likely to have the sweet things, which is what my body needs. Yeah.
I always take a fruit to work. So, I mean, it changes, but there's always a fruit. And then at night, when I'm like watching my YouTube or whatever, I snack on fruit.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Routines are like, I think, a big thing. And I've also noticed as soon as, if there's a public holiday, I am grateful for the rest. But when that happens, I'm automatically thrown off of my weekly routine because I don't have my Monday things that I do. So,
Oh, no, that's not a problem I have. Give me that Monday.
I think because of just how, like, I have all the subjects and they're structured on all the specific days. So if I have one day missing, it's very annoying, like not doing the full week thing for my brain. But and Mondays are nicer for me starting off with because I have a free session at the end. So I can do a lot of my planning then, and I usually go to the grocery store on Mondays on my way home. So that's nice. But if I start work on a Tuesday, it's horrible because it's my 5 session day and I have training and ballet. So it's insane.
It's so funny we say that because today is one of those Mondays for me.
Yeah.
It was a public holiday, and I'm gonna be back at work tomorrow on a Tuesday.
Oh God.
It's funny, but I don't mind it. I think with the littles, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, it's different, for sure. I'm gonna feel that when we go back to work though, because I'm on holiday right now, but we do have
Actually, also need the holiday.
yeah, I do need the holiday. People say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You have like so many holidays because you're a teacher," but we would actually not survive our job if we did not have the holidays we do.
We wouldn't.
And neither would the children.
No, I think that's more. Because even just we've had 2 long weekends now in a row here. It's made the biggest difference. Like with my patients, with how I feel at work, it's made such a difference just having like
Yeah.
an extra day.
Yeah.
Here and there.
I also think though that teachers should have like mental health leave, because sometimes I don't have to be at work for if I'm doing a training day or like a family commitment or something, or just a sick day, and I realize how much more energy I have just by not being around the children, even if I have done all the work I would normally do. But just because I have to prepare lessons and give it to a relief teacher, so I do pretty much the same thing. And it's just so insane how much more like mental energy and space you have, which is also why we can't do this podcast on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, because we would burn out. So this is most likely just going to be a seasonal, like 4 times a year catch up.
Maybe we can do a bit more.
Maybe, yeah. We'll see how we go.
I think. Yeah,
but we can try. Yeah, but for the time being, like officially, when we have a holiday.
And now our holidays don't align anymore.
Oh yeah, which sucks.
They used to align last year, but now I'm at a 3-term school, so I have 3 terms instead of 4. So my term is still going at the moment. Like I would have also been on holiday last week. The other schools were on holiday last week. But I still have 2 weeks left until my holiday now.
Okay.
And then we have like 13-week-long terms.
That is scary. Ours next term.
It feels very long. It feels very long, I must say. It feels long.
Yeah.
But it's fine because my holidays are a touch longer as well, so it's fine.
Oh, that's nice. I don't know if I'd want the same. Nah. It's, yeah. 10 weeks, 2-week holidays is where we're at. Okay, well, I think we shall wrap up. Oh my goodness.
2 hours.
Yeah, geez. Wasn't expecting to go that long, but I think we had a really good chat. Happy with that. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
I don't think so. I think we've said a lot.
Okay.
But
well,
hope everyone enjoyed.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening or watching if you are or watching in future. And thank you so much for doing this with me. It has been really fun. I've missed you.
Has been.
Yeah,
I know.
talking.
I know. I have missed this as well.
Yeah. So stay tuned. We shall let you all know when we will be doing this again. And we'll maybe have a little bit of a different thing to talk about. Probably won't be so long because we kind of talked about how we started with all the things, which can get stuck into a bit. But okay. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great day or night wherever you are in the world. And we will see you again next time. You can find us at the Parabatai BC on Instagram, and individually I am at Thinks About, and Lucy and Laia are at literally Laia. Okay.
Lucy also just needed to say bye.
Yeah.
Always needs to get her opinion in there.
Yeah, I can't have Lilo and Stitch in the room with me. It would just be insane. So
I do see
okay.
where I am she is. So it's unavoidable.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.